guys, it's John from theproductivegarden.com. Just getting a bit of weeding done here. Now most people think that weeds in the garden are pretty useless. There's something you can't avoid in the garden, no matter how you try and prevent them, whether it's weed mats or mulch or weeding before the weeds go to seed, you'll always get weeds in your garden. And the problem with weeds is they invade your garden, but they also take nutrients out of the soil. They use nutrients that your other plants would be able to use if they weren't there. Now, once those nutrients are out of the soil, it's not that easy to put them back. You've got to use fertilisers or compost and that sort of thing. But what if you could use your weeds to help you put some of that nutrients back into the soil? Well, you could put them into the compost bin and wait a couple of months for it to compost down and become something that you can put back onto your soil. Or maybe you could make a weed tea. Okay, now the weed tea, when we make it, takes about 2 weeks to make it. Okay, and then you'll be able to use the liquid from that to put back on your soil. There'll still be a bit of weed matter that you can put in your compost bin, and of course that'll take the months that it takes to compost down, but at least you get to put a fair bit back in just a short 2 weeks. So let's go and make that. Okay, now making the weed tea is pretty easy. All you have to do is get yourself a bucket. You can buy these 20 litre buckets from hardware stores. They're not very expensive at all, and they come with a lid as well. Just fill it with the weeds, push them in there, and don't worry about filling it up too much with weeds. Those weeds will break down as the compost or as the tea is made over the next 2 weeks. Okay, so push them down pretty tight. There's a fair bit of weeds in there. Okay, and now we just fill this with water. Okay, now you could use water from your tap, but it's full of chlorine. It's going to, at least at first, kill off some of the biological activity that you want to happen in this tea for it to break the weeds down. So I use rainwater from my rainwater barrel. Okay, so we fill it up. Okay there, so we fill it up with water. Okay, top it up as much as you like, get it right to the top. And now this will be left for 2 weeks. Now, we don't just leave it and do nothing to it. What we need to do every now and then is just give it a bit of a stir. I use an old shovel handle. Okay, and I just firstly make sure that all the weeds go underwater and just give it a bit of a stir around. And the idea of that, and get right down to the bottom, is just to mix a bit of oxygen through the water. Okay, because the bacteria in there need oxygen to be able to break down the weeds. If you don't put oxygen in there, you get a bit of anaerobic activity happening, and it'll start to stink pretty bad. It'll smell anyway, even no matter how much you stir it. But yeah, stir it at least once a day. If you can do it once every couple of days, that's even better. Okay, and we do that, stir it once every couple of days, a couple of times every day for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks it'll look like this. Okay, so here's one that I set 2 weeks ago. I've been giving it a stir. This was as full of weeds as the one we've just made then. Okay, and you can see here that the weed mass has reduced quite a lot. Okay, and yeah, it's a bit stinky, and that's basically what you're doing when you stir it, okay, especially when it gets towards the end. Now, even though it looks like you've got stuff that might be sort of living there, I can guarantee you it's all pretty dirty. It's not going to grow again. So what we need to do now, before we put it on the garden, is just filter this stuff, and that's pretty easy. What we do to filter it, get yourself another bucket, and so we've got another bucket. This is just an old laundry detergent bucket. Of course, it's been rinsed out, and what we're going to do is do a primary filtering of the liquid. And the way we do that is we just pour it through. This is just a seed tray with holes in the bottom, so it'll filter out the big stuff. Okay, so that's the primary filtering there. Now we've still got a bit of organic matter in there that if we put it into our watering can, it'll clog the spout on the watering can. So we just need to filter it down a little bit more. Okay, now to filter it down more, I'm just going to use a bit of aluminium fly screen. I'm just going to put it over the bucket, put it over another bucket, and use something. I've got an old tyre tube here. I'm just going to use to hold the fly screen in place. Okay, now once you've got the fly screen fixed in place, because I use a tyre tube, it's just easy and it's free because it's a tyre tube I don't need anymore. You could use rope or an Oki strap or anything like that. Okay, so what we do, we pour the remaining liquid through the fly screen. Okay, and you can see the sludge that comes out of that. Okay, so we'll get rid of that, and we're left with a pretty muddy looking liquid. Okay, now this here, there'll still be a bit of fine stuff in there, but it's not going to clog your watering can spout up too much. Okay, now we put the rest of this liquid into our watering can. We don't put it all in at once. We've got about 10 litres of liquid here, and it's pretty rich stuff. We want to mix it in to about 1 litre in 10 litres. So we put in a watering can, it's generally 10 litres. We're going to put 1 litre of liquid into a watering can, okay, and fill the rest up with water. Like I said before, preferably rainwater, because the chlorine in your town water is going to kill some of the biological action. So we'd preferably use rainwater. The thing too, when you're putting fertiliser into a watering can or any liquid to enrich the water that you're putting on the plants, put that fertiliser type liquid in first. Okay, the reason for that is if you put it in first and then put the water in later on, adding the water will help to stir the liquid around in the water. Okay, so you'll get it already being mixed. If you put the water in first and then pour the liquid in, a lot of liquid, some of it will stir around, but a lot of it will tend to go to the bottom of the watering can. And so only the last few plants that you water will get the benefit of that liquid. Okay, so we're going to pour about 1 litre into this watering can. If you've got a funnel, of course that makes it easier, but I'll do it the hard way. Righto, so there we go. There's about 1 litre in now, and we'll fill the rest up with water, and we can put that on our plants. Now, the rest of the stuff that was left over, of course, we need to use that. And what you can do is you can just put that into your compost bin. Okay, so that's how we make weed tea. Now, just to go over it quickly, put your weeds in a bucket, fill that bucket with water, stir them up a couple of times each day, and do that for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, do your primary filter through your rough filter, then do another one through your smaller filter, and then mix it into your watering can at a proportion of 1 part in 10. So 1 part of liquid into a watering can of 10 litres. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go and add water to this stuff and add it to my garden so that my plants will grow strong and healthy. Okay, that's Tuesday's tip for this week. If you have any tips you would like me to do, then leave a comment below and I'll try to do those tips for you. Anyway, thanks very much for watching and happy productive gardening. Bye.